ownership application at 3744 East 114th Street, Ward 2. File number 593, 2021, transfer of license application at 1052 Old River Road, Ward 3. File number 594, 2021, new license application at 1052 Old River Road, Ward 3. File number 595, 2021, transfer of ownership application at 4189 Ridge Road, Ward 13. File number 596, 2021, transfer of ownership application at 4896 Pearl Road, Ward 13. File number 597, 2021, transfer of ownership application at 13124 Lorraine Avenue, Ward 16. File number 598, 2021, transfer of ownership application at 14910 Lorraine Avenue, Ward 17. File number 599, 2021, temporary permit application at 10820 East Boulevard, Ward 9. File number 600, 2021, transfer of ownership application at 15601 Waterloo Road, Ward 8. File number 603, 2021, transfer of ownership application at 1121 West 10th Street, Ward 3. File number 604, 2021, transfer of license application at 3029 Woodhill Road, Ward 4. File number 605, 2021, transfer of ownership application at 831 East 140th Street, Ward 10. File number 612, 2021, stock application at 748 Prospect Avenue, Ward 3. File number 613, 2021, stock application at 7210 Memphis Avenue, Ward 13. File number 614, 2021, stock application at 3106 Fulton Road, Ward 14.
Condolence resolutions.
Condolence by Councilmember Bishop for Bertha Lee Dawson, by Councilmember Conwell for Viola English, by Councilmembers Conwell and Griffin for George Fulton Dixon III, by Councilmembers Gardner and Gray for Nellie Mae Barrett Edwards Ford, by Councilmember Gray for Mildred Wheat, by Councilmember Griffin for Santino Deshaun Wilson, by Councilmember Hairston for Ann Jackson, by Councilmember Bashir Jones for Christian Frederick Cartwright, by Council Members Bashir Jones and Griffin for Annette M. Shack, by Council Member Joe Jones for Reverend Ernest Mosley, by Council Member Joe Jones for Shirley Ann Jackson Coley, by Council Member Joe Jones for Imelda Boyd King, by Council Member Joe Jones for James N. Holder III, by Council Member Joe Jones for Devon Avery Curry, by Council Member Joe Jones for Roxy L. Gaines, by Council Member Casey for Shirley Mitchell, by Council Members Casey and Slife for Council Member Kelly for Jean Patricia Flesher.
Are there any other condolences? Will council members please rise for a moment of silence? Thank you. Congratulatory resolutions.
Resolutions of congratulations by Councilmember Bishop for Reverend Tyrone Davis, by Councilmember Bishop for Carrie B. Hearn, by Councilmember Conwell for Molly Holloway on her 100th birthday, by Councilmember Griffin for Sergeant James Dennis, by Councilmembers Griffin and Polensek for the Italian Sons and Daughters of America, by Councilmember Casey for Marjorie S. McCreary, by Councilmember Santana for Maria Guzman on her 87th birthday. Resolutions of recognition by Councilmember Griffin for Spectrum, Cleveland City Council Neighborhood Technology Trust Fund of Cleveland Foundation, by Councilmember Joe Jones for Elder Lo Johnson, by Councilmember Polensek for Reverend Martin F. Polito, by Councilmembers McCormack and Polensek for Early Settlers Association of the Western Reserve, by Councilmember Santana for Latinus Theater Company, Inc., by Councilmember Slife for Reverend Mark Q. Fader. Resolutions of appreciation by Councilmember Gray for Major Cares Ministries, Inc., by Councilmember Joe Jones for Reverend Dr. George O. Stewart. Resolutions of welcome by Councilmember Joe Jones for National Missionary Baptist Convention of America, by Councilmember Kelly for Daniel Divino Velasquez.
Thank you. Amendment to Rules of Council.
Rule 2, all meetings of the council or its committees shall be public and in accordance with the rules and procedures established by the clerk of council. Any person may be heard during that portion of a regular meeting set aside for public comment. Persons desiring to be heard by a committee of council on a matter to be considered by that committee may request the committee chair in advance for the opportunity to be heard. Approval of such request is at the discretion of the committee chair. All minutes and records of the council shall be open to the public at all reasonable times upon request. Rule 7, order of business. The business of all regular meetings of council shall be transacted in the following order unless the council by a 2/3 vote suspends the rules and changes the order. 1, roll call of members. 2, prayer. 3, pledge of allegiance. 4, disposal of the journal of the preceding meeting. 5, public comment. 6, reports and communications from the mayor. 7, reports and communications from departments, commissions, and other public officers. 8, other communications, petitions, and memorials. 9, reading and passage of emergency ordinances and resolutions. 10, introduction of ordinances and resolutions. 11, second reading of ordinances and resolutions. 13, third reading of ordinances and resolutions. 14, miscellaneous business shall be permitted at the discretion of the chair. 15, report of the clerk of absent members. 16, adjournment. The presiding officer may, at any time, without objection of its members of council, permit a member to introduce an ordinance, resolution, or motion out of the regular order, provided, however, if an objection is made, a 2/3 vote of all members elected to council shall be required to permit such introduction out of the regular order.
Thank you. What the clerk just read is what has been emailed, and it was the result of Rules Committee. Is there any comments before I call the roll? Councilman Kerry McCormick, you're going to need to borrow a microphone.
Mr. President, there was an amendment submitted by the Clevelanders for public comment regarding a majority approval vote by council. So I'd like to bring that amendment to the floor. For Rule 2, after clerk of council, to add "and approved by a majority vote of council."
So how would that change the way it's currently
So
structured?
any rules that were established by the clerk would also then be required to have a majority yea or nay vote by the council.
Okay. And understand it's going to go to Operations Committee, that it would be vetted through Operations Committee as well?
Right, but it wouldn't require, that doesn't require a vote by council, does it?
Right.
That would just go through. So this would just layer on that any rules that were established for public comment would then also, after they were established by the clerk and gone through operations, they would then be required an up or down majority vote by council.
Well, first off, is there a second? Okay.
I'll second it. Thank you.
Thank you. It doesn't seem like it will change too much one way or another. My biggest concern is that it's going to delay. We've been talking about this for a long time, and it's going to delay it. And I don't know if it's going to have any practical effect, but it will delay the procedure that we've been working on for so long and the process. But either way, it's fine.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion? Just raise it. Oh, you haven't done this, have you?
No.
Oh, just raise it.
Oh,
Yeah, there
God.
you
First
go.
meeting in the chamber.
You
That
didn't
felt-
break it. You didn't break it. It's great.
No, I would just add that I really appreciate the work that the council clerk and your staff have done to bring us to this point, along with Council President Kelly. I support the amendment because it really makes the council members also accountable for these rules in a more direct way, and I think we should be directly involved in approving them. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? Councilman Charles Slife.
And on top of Councilwoman Spencer's words, I would just add that I'm very appreciative of the advocacy for members of our community on this issue.
Well said. Councilman Mike Polensek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since I seconded, I support the amendment, and I support the fact that members of council should have the final say. And I appreciate all the work that's been done on this issue. It's been a long time coming, but we're at a point now where it's going to get resolved. the issues of conflict, concern by citizens not being able to adequately address this body, I think the amendment is appropriate, and I support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? Vote on the amendment. Is there, let me start with objection. Objection to the amendment. Okay, then I'd like to call the roll. Amendment passes, and I'd like to call the roll on the amendment of the council rules as amended.
Kelly, Bishop.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Kelly, Bishop, Brancatelli, Conwell, Gardner, Gray, Griffin, Hairston, Bashir Jones, Joe Jones, Casey, McCormack, Mooney, Polensik, Santana, Slife, Spencer. 14 yeas.
Thank you. First reading emergency ordinances to be referred for administrative and committee review.
Ordinance 651, 2021 by Councilmember Kelly by departmental request, authorizing Director of Finance on behalf of Clerk of Cleveland Municipal Court to enter into an amendment to a contract with Nash West LLC to provide additional professional project management services related to integrating training and analysis for the new case management system for a term not to exceed 1 year. Ordinance 652, 2021 by Councilmembers Griffin and Kelly by departmental request to amend Section 2 of Ordinance 202, 2020 relating to a requirement contract for the purchase of turnout gear to add additional fund numbers. Ordinance 653, 2021 by Councilmembers Casey and Kelly by departmental request to amend Ordinance 1368-15 by adding two new whereas clauses and Sections 2 and 2A to amend Section 1 to amend and renumber Section 2 to 1A relating to the public improvement of constructing the boosted third high system in Richfield, Ohio, and related site improvements. Ordinance 654, 2021 by Councilmember Kelly by departmental request, authorizing Director of Finance on behalf of Cleveland Municipal Court Housing Division to apply for and accept up to 2 grants from the Supreme Court of Ohio for the 2021 Supreme Court Technology Grant Program for continuation by contracts of remote access and virtual courtroom proceedings, and authorizing 1 or more contracts for the direct and competitive purchase of kiosks, video hardware, speakers, microphones, and other appurtenances to implement the program. Ordinance 655, 2021 by Councilmembers Bishop and Kelly by departmental request, authorizing Director of Public Works to enter into a concession agreement for the operation of a food and beverage concession inside Cleveland City Hall for a 1-year term with 2 one-year options to renew, exercisable by the Director of Public Works. Ordinance 656, 2021 by Councilmembers Casey and Kelly by departmental request, authorizing Director of Public Utilities to enter into 1 or more requirement contracts without competitive bidding with Southeastern Equipment Company, Inc., Ohio Machinery, DBA as Ohio Cat, and Murphy Tractor and Equipment, Inc., for the purchase of proprietary replacement parts of heavy-duty construction equipment and labor and materials to repair and maintain the proprietary equipment for the divisions of Water Pollution Control, Cleveland Public Power, Department of Public Utilities. Ordinance 657, 2021 by Councilmember Kelly by departmental request, authorizing payment of membership dues of the City of Cleveland in the Northeast Ohio Area-Wide Coordinating Agency for fiscal year 2022. Ordinance 658, 2021 by Councilmember Kelly by departmental request, authorizing the purchase by 1 or more requirement contracts of scanning and data entry services, associated software licenses, installation and maintenance for the Division of Taxation, Department of Finance, for a period of 1 year with 4 one-year options to renew, exercisable by the Director of Finance. Ordinance 659, 2021 by Councilmembers Conwell, Hairston, Bishop, Brancatelli, and Kelly by departmental request, authorizing Director of Public Works to execute various deeds of permanent easement and deeds of temporary easement, granting to the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District certain easement rights at or under several city parks for the Sewer District's shoreline storage tunnel project, and declaring the easement rights not needed for the city's public use, and authorizing an agreement with the Sewer District for compensation for such easements and a gift of cash to provide replacement park improvements at the affected parks. Ordinance 660, 2021, by Council Members Griffin and Kelly by departmental request, authorizing the purchase by one or more contracts of propane-fired training system and various training props for the Division of Fire, Department of Public Safety for a period of 1 year with 2 one-year options to renew, exercisable by the Director of Public Safety. Ordinance 681, 2021, by Councilmember Kelly, authorizing Director of Finance to enter into one or more agreements with the Greater Cleveland Food Bank to assist them with capital improvements associated with the new center on Coit Road and the existing facility on South Waterloo Road to be executed no later than December 31st, 2024, and funds expended by June 1st, 2026. Ordinance 682, 2021, by Council Members Joe Jones and Kelly by departmental request, to amend Section 2 of Ordinance 129, 2021, relating to entering into one or more amendments to lease by way of concession agreements with various car rental companies that operate rental car concessions at Cleveland Hopkins International Airport to amend the guaranteed minimum privilege fee for certain companies. Ordinance 683, 2021, by Council Members Bishop, Brancatelli, and Kelly by departmental request, authorizing Director of Capital Projects to apply for and accept funding from the Ohio Department of Transportation for the preliminary alternative study of the lakefront pedestrian bridge, authorizing Director to apply for and accept gifts, grants, and other funding from other entities, to enter into contract with Osborne Engineering Company for traffic modeling and engineering services, authorizing other agreements and authorizing the Commissioner of Purchases and Supplies to acquire, accept, and record for right-of-way purposes real property and easements. Ordinance 684, 2021, by Council Members Polensek, Bishop, Brancatelli, by departmental request, authorizing Director of Capital Projects to issue one or more permits to Muldoon's LLC to encroach into the public right-of-way of East 185th Street by using and maintaining existing asphalt pavement, fence, brick wall, and building canopy for their restaurant at the northwest corner of Villaview Road and East 185th Street. Ordinance 685, 2021, by Council Members Spencer, Bishop, and Brancatelli by departmental request, authorizing Director of Capital Projects to issue a permit to the Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority to encroach into the public rights-of-way of West 63rd Place, Corona Court, and Lawn Avenue by installing, using, and maintaining a sanitary sewer force main from the existing substation building to the existing sewer along Lawn Avenue. Ordinance 686, 2021, by Council Members Joe Jones and Kelly by departmental request, authorizing Director of Port Control to exercise the first option to renew a lease agreement with Federal Express Corporation for building and land use as office, warehouse, and various parking facilities for vehicles and aircraft for the operation of a retail shipping and air freight service facility located at 5701 Postal Road. Ordinance 687, 2021, by Council Members Joe Jones and Kelly by departmental request, authorizing Director of Port Control to exercise the first option to renew a lease agreement with Av Air Pros Services for the purpose of operating and maintaining the inline baggage handling system at Cleveland Hopkins International Airport and to amend the contract to change certain terms of the contract. Ordinance 688, 2021, by Council Members Joe Jones and Kelly by departmental request, authorizing Director of Port Control to exercise first option to renew a lease agreement with RAS Aviation, DBA Zone Aviation for the purpose of operating a flight training school and providing aircraft management and pilot support services for Burke Lakefront Airport. Ordinance 689, 2021, by Council Members Joe Jones and Kelly by departmental request, authorizing Director of Port Control to exercise the first option to renew a contract with Wadsworth and Associates for labor and materials needed to maintain, repair, and expand the integrated access control, security, and CCTV systems for the various divisions of the Department of Port Control. Ordinance 690, 2021, by Council Members Bashir Jones, Bishop, Brancatelli, and Kelly by departmental request, authorizing Director of Capital Projects and/or City Planning to enter into one or more contracts with Default LLC, for professional services necessary for the design, production, and installation of yet-to-be designed public artwork associated with and installed at the renovated Kavasik Recreation Center. Ordinance 691, 2021, by Councilmember Kelly, authorizing the Director of Finance to employ one or more professional consultants, computer software developers, or vendors to provide and/or develop a broadband network on a citywide basis, to acquire licenses, program managing, and other professional services necessary to implement this ordinance, accepting gifts and grants, and authorizing other agreements for the Division of Information Technology Services, Department of Finance. Ordinance 692, 2021, by Councilmembers Joe Jones and Kelly by departmental request, authorizing Director of Port Control to employ one or more professional consultants to perform various services needed for ongoing mandatory environmental compliance for the Department of Port Control, to acquire licenses for compliance, and authorizing the Director to enter into various written standard purchase and requirement contracts for materials, equipment, supplies, services, and training necessary to effectuate this ordinance for a period of 5 years, effective January 1, 2022. Ordinance 694, 2021, by Councilmember Polensek, to supplement the codified ordinances of Cleveland, Ohio, by enacting new Section 135.13 related to disclosure of police use of deadly force recordings. Ordinance 694, 2021, by Councilmembers Griffin, Brancatelli, and Kelly by departmental request, authorizing the Mayor and Commissioner of Purchases and Supplies to acquire and reconvey properties presently owned by Fairfax Renaissance Development Corporation or its designee, located on the west side of East 105th Street for the purpose of entering into the chain of title prior to the adoption of tax increment financing legislation authorized under Section 570941 of the Revised Code for the Innovation Square project. Ordinance 696, 2021, by Councilmembers Santana, Brancatelli, and Kelly by departmental request, authorizing the Mayor and Commissioner of Purchases and Supplies to acquire and reconvey properties presently owned by Levin Group or its designee, known as the former Blanket Mills Building on Fulton Road, for the purpose of entering into the chain of title prior to the adoption of tax increment financing legislation authorized under Section 570941 of the Revised Code for the Northern Ohio Blanket Mills Project. Ordinance 697, 2021, by Councilmembers Santana, Brancatelli, and Kelly by departmental request, authorizing the Mayor and Commissioner of Purchases and Supplies to acquire and reconvey properties presently owned by Northeast Ohio Hispanic Center for Economic Development or its designee, for the purpose of entering into the chain of title prior to the adoption of tax increment financing for the Centro Village 25 project. Ordinance 698, 2021, by Councilmembers Santana, Brancatelli, and Kelly by departmental request, authorizing Director of Economic Development to enter into a grant agreement with Northeast Ohio Hispanic Center for Economic Development or its designee to partially finance the Centro Villa 25 project regarding the development of the West 25th Street and Clark Avenue area. Ordinance 699, 2021, by Councilmembers Griffin, Brancatelli, and Kelly by departmental request, authorizing Director of Economic Development to enter into a loan agreement with Fairfax Renaissance Development Corporation or its designee to provide economic development assistance to partially finance the development of the Innovation Square mixed-use neighborhood project located on the west side of East 105th Street and other associated costs necessary to redevelop the property. Ordinance 700, 2021, by Councilmembers Santana, Brancatelli, and Kelly by departmental request, authorizing Director of Economic Development to enter into a loan agreement with the Levin Group or its designee to provide economic development assistance to partially finance the development of the former Blanket Mills Building on Fulton Road and other associated costs necessary to redevelop the property. Ordinance 701, 2021, by Councilmembers Santana, Brancatelli, and Kelly by departmental request, authorizing Director of Economic Development to enter into loan agreements with Northeast Ohio Hispanic Center for Economic Development or its designee to provide economic development assistance to support the Centro Villa 25 project regarding the development of West 25th Street and Clark Avenue area. Ordinance 702, 2021, by council members Griffin, Brancatelli, and Kelly by departmental request, authorizing Director of Economic Development to enter into a tax increment financing agreement with Fairfax Renaissance Development Corporation or its designee to partially finance the development of Innovation Square mixed-use neighborhood project located on the west side of East 105th Street, to provide for payments to the Cleveland Metropolitan School District and to declare certain improvements to real property to be a public purpose. Ordinance 703, 2021, by council members Santana, Brancatelli, and Kelly by departmental request, authorizing Director of Economic Development to enter into a tax increment financing agreement with Levin Group or its designee to partially finance the development of the former Blanket Mills building on Fulton Road, to provide for payments to Cleveland Metropolitan School District, and to declare certain improvements to real property to be a public purpose. Ordinance 704, 2021, by council members Santana, Brancatelli, and Kelly by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Economic Development to enter into a tax increment financing agreement with Northeast Ohio Hispanic Center for Economic Development and or its designee to provide a debt reserve for the Central Villa 25 project regarding the development of West 25th Street and Clark Avenue area, to provide for payments to the Cleveland Metropolitan School District, and to declare certain improvement to real property to be a public purpose. Ordinance 713, 2021, by Councilmember Kelly, to change the name of Ken Johnson Rec Center to the Woodland Recreation Center.
First reading, emergency ordinances to be passed. I'm sorry,
Excuse me, from 66521, if I could.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ordinance 650, 2021, by initiative petition, authorizing the submission to the electors of the City of Cleveland of an initiative petition proposing to amend the charter of the City of Cleveland by amending existing sections 115, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and by enacting new sections 115.5, 119.1 of the Charter relating to enabling police reform by strengthening Civilian Police Review Board oversight, permanently establishing the Community Police Commission, and adopting other reforms. Ordinance 661, 2021, by Councilmember Gardner, amending the title and sections 1 and 2 of Ordinance 283, 2021, as amended, as it pertains to authorizing Director of the Department of Aging to enter into an agreement with Famicos Foundation for the Senior Lawn Care Program through the use of Wards 1, 4, 7, and 10 casino revenue funds. Ordinance 662, 2021, by Council Members Bishop, Gardner, Gray, Bashir Jones, Polensek, Mooney, and Slife, amending the title in Section 1 of Ordinance 559, 2021, as it pertains to authorizing the Director of Department of Public Works to enter into an agreement with Midtown Cleveland for the Pow Wow Educational Expo through the use of Wards 2, 4, 5, 7, 8, 11, and 17 casino revenue funds. Ordinance 663, 2021, by Councilmember Bishop, amending Section 2 of Ordinance 286, 2021, as it pertains to authorizing Director of Department of Aging to enter into an agreement with Union Miles Development Corporation for the Senior Lawn Care Program through the use of Ward 2 casino revenue funds. Ordinance 664, 2021, by Councilmember Kelly, authorizing the Clerk of Council to enter into an agreement with American Legal Publishing for the professional services necessary to provide online access and web hosting services for the charter and the codified ordinances, to edit and post all new amendatory ordinances online, update the code online, regularly edit and print replacement pages with updates to the code, and other services as may be necessary for code supplementation, and to authorize any amendments to the contract that may be necessary for additional printings of the codified ordinances during the term. Ordinance 665, 2021, by Councilmember Kelly by departmental request, authorizing Director of Finance to enter into a multi-party amended and restated agreement with Say Yes to Education, Inc. and various public entities effective July 30th, 2021, acknowledging a process for the transition of the roles and responsibilities of Say Yes to Education from the national organization to the Cleveland chapter. Ordinance 666, 2021, by Council Members Joe Jones, Gardner, and Conwell, authorizing Director of Department of Public Works to enter into agreement with Brick City Productions for the Grandparents Education and Resources Family Day through the use of wards 1, 4, and 9 casino revenue funds. Ordinance 667, 2021, by Council Members Joe Jones, Conwell, and Hairston, authorizing Director of Department of Community Development to enter into agreement with Cleveland Cultural Gardens Federation for the One World Day Centennial Expo through the use of wards 1, 9, and 10 casino revenue funds. Ordinance 668, 2021, by Council Members McCormack, Bishop, Brancatelli, and Kelly, by departmental request, to vacate a portion of Frankfurt Avenue Northwest, extending from West 6th Street to West 3rd Street. Ordinance 669, 2021, by Councilmember Gardner, authorizing the Director of Department of Economic Development to enter into agreement with Rudy's Mini Mart for the Rudy's Mini Mart Economic Expansion Project through the use of Ward 4 casino revenue funds and capital repair funds. Ordinance 670, 2021, by Councilmember Gray, authorizing Director of Department of Public Works to enter into agreement with Friendly Inn Settlement, Inc. for the Friendly Inns Rosie's Girls program through the use of Ward 5 casino revenue funds. Ordinance 712, 2021, by Councilmember McCormack, authorizing Director of Capital Projects to issue a permit to Downtown Cleveland Alliance to encroach onto the property that is owned by the City of Cleveland, known as the Boardwalk, along the Flats East Bank. Ordinance 714, 2021, by Council Members Griffin and Kelly, by departmental request, authorizing Director of Public Safety to apply for and accept a grant from Cuyahoga County for fiscal year 2020, Improving Criminal Justice Response Grant for domestic violence warrant enforcement, and authorizing one or more contracts with Cuyahoga County to implement the grant.
Read the motion to suspend the rules.
By Councilmember Brancatelli, that the rules be suspended and the legislation just read be placed on final passage, seconded by Councilmember Gardner.
Thank you. Councilman Jones, if all council members could please return to their seat for the call of the roll. Please call the roll.
Kelly, Bishop, Brancatelli, Conwell, Gardner, Gray, Griffin, Hairston, Bashir Jones, Joe Jones, Casey, McCormack, Mooney, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer. 14 yeas.
Please call the roll on passage.
Kelly, Bishop, Brancatelli, Conwell, Gardner, Gray, Griffin, Hairston, Bashir Jones, Joe Jones, Casey, McCormack, Mooney, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer. On ordinance 665, 2021, 13 yeas, no nays, 1 recusal. On all others, 14 yeas, no nays.
Thank you. First reading emergency resolutions to be referred for administrative and committee review.
Resolution 671, 2021, by Councilmember Kelly, by departmental request, acknowledging that the City of Cleveland will become a a clean future Ohio community, and reaffirming the city's goal to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Resolution 672, 2021, by Councilmember Polensek, supporting SB 164, which seeks tougher punishments on those who abuse companion animals. Resolution 693, 2021, by Councilmembers Gray, Bishop, and Brancatelli, by departmental request, declaring the intent to vacate a portion of Rawlings Avenue between East 75th and East 79th Street, a portion of Holton Avenue between East 75th and East 79th Street, and a portion of East 78th Street from the south line of Holton Avenue to the prolongation of the south lines of sublots 84 and 75 in J.H. Hardy's subdivision.
First reading emergency resolutions to be adopted.
Resolution 673, 2021, by Councilmember Mooney, objecting to the transfer of stock of a C2, C2X, and D6 liquor permit to 3934 West 117th Street. Resolution 674, 2021, by Councilmember Kelly, objecting to the transfer of ownership of a D1, D2, D3, D3A liquor permit at 4896 Pearl Road. Resolution 675, 2021, by Councilmember Kelly, objecting to a new D3 and D3A liquor permit at 5551 Memphis Avenue. Resolution 676, 2021, by Councilmember Gardner, objecting to the transfer of location of a D5 liquor permit to 3029 Woodhill Road. Resolution 677, 2021, by Councilmember Bishop, objecting to the transfer of ownership of a C2C2X liquor permit to 3744 East 144th Street, first floor only. Resolution 678, 2021, by Councilmember Kelly, objecting to the transfer of ownership of a C1 liquor permit to 4189 Ridge Road. Resolution 679, 2021, by Councilmember Spencer, withdrawing objections to the renewal of a C1 liquor permit at 7301 Detroit Avenue and repealing Resolution 1018, 2019, and Resolution 617, 2020, objecting to said renewal. Resolution 670, 2021, by Councilmember Conwell, withdrawing objection to the transfer of location of a C2, C2X liquor permit at 10933 Superior Avenue and repealing Resolution 146018, objecting to said renewal. Resolution 705, 2021, by Councilmember Brancatelli, objecting to the renewal of a C1, C2 liquor permit at 1303 Clark Avenue. Resolution 706, 2021, by Councilmember Brancatelli, objecting to the renewal of a C1, C2 liquor permit at 3794 East 71st Street. Resolution 707, 2021, by Councilmember Hairston, objecting to the renewal of a D5, D6 liquor permit at 5238 St. Clair Avenue. Resolution 708, 2021, by Councilmember Brancatelli, objecting to the renewal of a D5 liquor permit at 6508-10 Lansing Avenue, first floor and basement. Resolution 709, 2021, by Councilmember Hairston, objecting to the renewal of a D5, D6 liquor permit at 7114 St. Clair Avenue, first floor and basement. Resolution 710, 2021, by Councilmember Hairston, objecting to the renewal of a C2, C2X D6 liquor permit at 12730 St. Clair Avenue. Resolution 711, 2021, by Councilmember Hairston, objecting to the renewal of a C2, C2X D6 liquor permit at 12901 Shaw Avenue.
Read the motion to suspend the rules.
By Councilmember Brancatelli, that the rules be suspended and the legislation just read be placed on final passage, seconded by Councilmember Gardner.
Please call the roll.
Kelly, Bishop, Brancatelli, Conwell, Gardner, Gray, Griffin, Hairston, Bashir Jones, Joe Jones, Casey, McCormack, Mooney, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer. 14 yeas.
Please call the roll on adoption.
Kelly, Bishop, Brancatelli, Conwell, Gardner, Gray, Griffin, Hairston, Bashir Jones, Joe Jones, Casey, McCormack, Mooney, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer. 14 yeas.
Second reading, emergency ordinances to be passed.
Ordinance 298, 2021, as amended, by Council Members Spencer, McCormack, Bishop, Brancatelli, and Kelly by departmental request, giving consent of the City of Cleveland to the Director of Transportation of the State of Ohio for improving West Franklin Boulevard from West 85th Street to West 25th Street, to apply for and accept any grants, any gifts or grants from any public or private entity, authorizing Director of Capital Projects to enter into any relative agreements, and causing payment of the city's share to the state for the cost of the improvement. Ordinance 356, 2021, by Council Members Polensek, Bishop, and Brancatelli by departmental request, authorizing Director of Public Works to execute deeds of easement granting to the East Ohio Gas Company, DBA Dominion Energy, Ohio, certain easement rights and property located at Grovewood Avenue and East 161st Street within Humphrey Park, and declaring that the easement rights granted are not needed for public use. Ordinance 458, 2021, by Council Members McCormack, Brancatelli, and Kelly by departmental request to amend Section 3 of Ordinance 952, 2020, relating to authorizing the Director of Community Development to enter into a grant agreement with Near West Side Multi-Service Center, DBA May Dugan Center, to make repairs to the city-owned facility located at 4115 Bridge Avenue. Ordinance 472, 2021, by Council Members McCormack, Bishop, and Kelly by departmental request, determining the method of making the public improvement of constructing the retaining wall on Carter Road, authorizing Director of Capital Projects to enter into one or more contracts for the construction and design, to accept gifts or grants, authorize other agreements, authorizing option to acquire agreements with the property owners within the project site, and authorizing Commissioner of Purchases and Supplies to acquire real property and easements. Ordinance 531, 2021, by Council Members Brancatelli and Kelly by departmental request, authorizing Director of Community Development to accept funding from the United States Treasury Department for purposes of implementing the Emergency Rental Assistance Program established under the American Rescue Act of 2021 and authorizing contracts to implement. Ordinance 533, 2021, by Council Members Griffin and Kelly by departmental request, authorizing Director of Public Safety to enter into an agreement with Cuyahoga County Solid Waste District to accept funding in support of the Department of Public Safety's Environmental Crimes Task Force for purposes including but not limited to the purchase of training and equipment necessary to assist in combating illegal dumping. Ordinance 535, 2021, by Council Members Joe Jones and Kelly by departmental request, authorizing Director of Port Control to enter into an amendment to contract with Recess Creative to provide additional marketing, promotional, public relations, and advertising and creative services, including materials, equipment, and supplies necessary to promote Cleveland Hopkins International Airport and Burke Lakefront Airport for the Department of Port Control. Ordinance 537, 2021, by Council Members McCormack and Kelly by departmental request, authorizing Director of Aging to apply for and accept one or more grants from the Western Reserve Area Agency on Aging for 2022 and 23 Western Reserve Area Agency on Aging programs, including supportive services and aging and disability resource center programs, and authorizing Director to accept gifts from any public or private entity for the purpose of this grant. Ordinance 538, 2021, by Council Members Bashir Jones, Gray, Brancatelli, and Kelly by departmental request, approving the report of the Assessment Equalization Board on objections concerning estimated assessments with respect to the continuation of the Cleveland Superior Arts Improvement District and the new plan to provide public services for the district, determining to proceed with the plan, adopting and levying the assessments, and authorizing the city to enter into agreement with Cleveland Superior Arts Improvement Corporation. Ordinance 540, 2021, by Council Members Bishop and Kelly by departmental request, authorizing the purchase by one or more standard and requirement contracts for the purchase, lease, or lease with option to purchase of various on-road vehicles, apparatus, and off-road equipment, cabs, bodies, and accessories, equipment, and other aftermarket items necessary to equip the vehicles authorized for their intended purposes, including vehicle rehabilitation, training, and inspections as needed for the various divisions of city government. Ordinance 541, 2021, by Council Members Joe Jones and Kelly by departmental request, authorizing Director of Port Control to exercise the first option to renew a contract with Cleveland Coordinating Committee for the COD to operate a submarine museum and memorial. Ordinance 542, 2021, by Council Members Joe Jones and Kelly by departmental request, authorizing Director of Port Control to exercise the second option to renew a contract with C&K Industrial Services to provide professional sewer inspection, operation, and reporting services for the Department of Port Control. Ordinance 543, 2021, by Council Members Joe Jones and Kelly by departmental request, authorizing Director of Port Control to exercise the first option to renew a contract with Elite Line Services to provide for the upgrading, enhancing, refurbishing, and moving city-owned jet bridges at Cleveland Hopkins International Airport. Ordinance 545, 2021, by Council Members Joe Jones and Kelly by departmental request, authorizing Director of Port Control to exercise the first option to renew a contract with Natchez Alpine Solutions to provide FAA-approved de-icing chemicals. Ordinance 546, 2021, by Council Members Joe Jones and Kelly by departmental request, authorizing Director of Port Control to exercise the first option to renew a contract with Borgo Law LLC to operate a law firm in the terminal building at Burke Lakefront Airport, to amend certain terms of the lease, to add space under a companion license agreement, and to terminate the license agreement. Ordinance 547, 2021, by council members Bishop and Kelly, by departmental request, authorizing the purchase by one or more standard and requirement contracts for the purchase, lease, or lease with option to purchase of various on-road vehicles, apparatus, and off-road equipment, cabs, bodies, and accessories, equipment, and other aftermarket items necessary to equip the vehicles authorized for their intended purposes, including vehicle rehabilitation, training, and inspections as needed for the various divisions of city government. Ordinance 548, 2021, by council members Brancatelli and Kelly, by departmental request, authorizing Director of Economic Development to enter into a grant agreement with Greater Cleveland Media Development Corp., DBA Greater Cleveland Agreement, with the Greater Cleveland Sports Commission or its designee to provide financial assistance to organize and administer programs for marketing the City of Cleveland as a venue for sporting events, and to actively market the public auditorium as a premier site for the hosting of major events. Ordinance 551, 2021, by council members Joe Jones and Kelly, by departmental request, authorizing Director of Port Control to enter into a lease agreement with the United States Postal Service for the lease of property and a facility on Cargo Road to operate a warehouse, sorting facility, and post office retail store for the division of Cleveland Hopkins International Airport, Department of Port Control, for a period of 5 years with one 5-year option to renew, exercisable by the Director of Port Control. Ordinance 552, 2021, by council members Joe Jones and Kelly, by departmental request, authorizing Director of Port Control to enter into a lease agreement with Ultimate Air Charters for the lease of certain space located in the passenger terminal building at Burke Lakefront Airport for the Department of Port Control for a period of 1 year with 4 one-year options to renew, the second of which requires additional legislative authority. Ordinance 553, 2021, by council members Joe Jones and Kelly, by departmental request, authorizing Director of Port Control to enter into a lease agreement with K. Clee Jets, Inc., DBA Jets FBO Network, for the lease of an aircraft hangar and associated ramp parking space at 19601 Five Points Road for operation of a fixed-base operating business for the division of Cleveland Hopkins International Airport, Department of Port Control, for a period of 20 years with 2 5-year options to renew, the first which requires additional legislative authority. Ordinance 554, 2021, by council members Bishop and Kelly, by departmental request, authorizing Director of Capital Projects to employ one or more professional consultants necessary for the Dominion East Ohio Gas Pipeline Infrastructure Replacement Program for a period of 1 year with 2 one-year options to renew, exercisable by the Director of Capital Projects. Ordinance 555, 2021, by council members Conwell, Bishop, and Kelly, by departmental request, authorizing Director of Capital Projects to make alterations and modifications in a contract with Vandra Brothers Construction for rehabilitating East 105th Street from East Boulevard to Green Lawn Avenue. Ordinance 556, 2021, by council members Bashir Jones, Brancatelli, and Kelly, by departmental request, authorizing Director of Economic Development to enter into a tax increment financing agreement with CC Superior Holding or its designee to fund eligible project costs or project debt for the development of property for the cross-country mortgage services project located between Payne and Superior Avenue and East 21st and East 22nd Streets, to provide for payments to the Cleveland Metropolitan School District and to declare certain improvements to real property to be a public purpose. Ordinance 587, 2021, by Councilmember Hairston, designating East 147th Street from Aspinwall Avenue to Pepper Avenue with a secondary and honorary designation of Pastor James Walden Jr. Way.
Read the motion to suspend the rules.
By Councilmember Brancatelli, that the rules be suspended and the legislation just read be placed on final passage. Seconded by Councilmember Gardner.
Before calling the roll, Councilman Mike Plensick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Madam Clerk. I just want to make sure with the concurrence of Councilman Harrison that I was on that resolution for honorarium for Pastor Walden.
So
Okay, thank you.
So, yeah, that's coming up in item 16, right? Then the second reading of resolutions.
Yes.
Okay. If everybody will please return to their seats for the call of the roll. Please call the roll.
Kelly, Bishop, Brancatelli, Conwell, Gardner, Gray, Griffin, Hairston, Bashir Jones, Joe Jones, Casey, McCormack, Mooney, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer. 14 yeas.
Please call the roll on passage.
Kelly, Bishop, Brancatelli, Conwell, Gardner, Gray, Griffin, Hairston, Bashir Jones, Joe Jones, Casey, McCormack, Mooney, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer. On ordinance 556, 2021, 13 yeas, 1 nay. On all others, 14 yeas, no nays.
Second reading ordinances to be passed.
Ordinance 436, 2021 by Councilmember Gray, changing the use, area, and height districts of parcels of land south of future Opportunity Corridor Boulevard between East 75th Street and East 79th Street.
Read the motion to suspend the rules.
By Councilmember Brancatelli that the rules be suspended and the legislation just read be placed on final passage, seconded by Councilmember Gardner.
Please call the roll.
Kelly, Bishop, Brancatelli, Conwell, Gardner, Gray, Griffin, Hairston, Bashir Jones, Joe Jones, Casey, McCormack, Mooney, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer. 14 yeas.
Please call the roll on passage.
Kelly, Bishop, Brancatelli, Conwell, Gardner, Gray, Griffin, Hairston, Bashir Jones, Joe Jones, Casey, McCormack, Mooney, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer. 14 yeas.
Thank you. Second reading emergency resolutions to be adopted.
Resolution 586, 2021 by Council Members Kelly, Spencer, McCormack, Brancatelli, and Griffin, supporting Ohio Senate Bills 159 and 192, which would reduce certain property taxes on certain qualifying owner-occupied homes.
Read the motion to suspend the rules.
By Councilmember Brancatelli that the rules be suspended and the legislation just read be placed on final passage, seconded by Councilmember Gardner.
Please call the roll.
Kelly, Bishop, Brancatelli, Conwell, Gardner, Gray, Griffin, Hairston, Bashir Jones, Joe Jones, Casey, McCormack, Mooney, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer. 14 yeas.
Call the roll on adoption.
Kelly, Bishop, Brancatelli, Conwell, Gardner, Gray, Griffin, Hairston, Bashir Jones, Joe Jones, Casey, McCormack, Mooney, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer. 14 yeas.
Thank you. This concludes our legislative agenda. Is there any miscellaneous items for the good of the order? Madam Clerk, will you please excuse the absences? Were there, if there is any?
Okay.
Councilman Santana.
By Councilmember Brancatelli, that the absence of Council Members Bishop, Bashir Jones, and Santana are hereby excused. Seconded by Councilmember Gardner.
Thank you. This council is adjourned to the call of the chair. Our next regularly scheduled meeting is on Monday, September 20th at 7 o'clock in council chambers.
Did you see that one resolution?
Community design effort and the planning commission is to prevent that haphazard, that helter-skelter from
That's right.